Thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Rye Town Park Commission meeting of October 17th, 2023. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence in memory of those who perished on October 7th in the terrorist attack in Israel, among whom were approximately 30 American citizens. Thank you. Thank you. Debbie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Emily Hurd. Here. Commissioner Jason Klein.
Here.
Commissioner Josh Cohn.
Here.
Acting Commissioner Joan Grosjean-Thomas.
Here.
President Zuckerman.
Here. I would like to note that Commissioner Cohn is appearing via Zoom. He is unwell, and luckily we have the technology that allows us to do this. First item of business is approval of the minutes of September 19th, 2023. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion and a second?
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have any members of the public who wish to comment?
There's nothing on the Facebook feed. I did hear from Ann Muller earlier, who mentioned that she might be sending a letter or an email. Emily, did you get anything from her? No?
Okay, well, that's I think that would be on an
I guess
agenda
it's
item.
an agenda item, yeah.
We'll get to that. Okay, thank you. Before we get to our first item of business, we have an added item. Debbie, would you explain what that is, please? Our added item?
Yes, although the spokesperson isn't here yet.
Is he coming here physically?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll skip the added item
Okay.
and go to the first item on the agenda, which is a presentation of the Rye Town Park Audit. Jeff Shaver of O'Connor Davies. Introduce yourself formally.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Shaver. I'm a partner with PKF O'Connor Davies. Happy to be here to present the results of the audit for the fiscal year end December 31st, 2022. I'm going to skip the agenda as I'll just dive right into the content here. In terms of the audit's done. Financial statements have been reviewed by management. We've issued what's known as an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's also referred to as a clean opinion, and that's the most favorable opinion that you can receive. What that means is the numbers in the financial statements are complete and they're accurately stated, and the note disclosures are also complete and accurately stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America. We did not note any material weaknesses in internal controls during the conduct of our audit, and happy to report no instances of fraud were noted by us as auditors or brought to our attention by management. So we as auditors are essentially responsible for rendering that auditor's opinion, and we always like to reiterate to our clients that the financial statements themselves are the responsibility of management. And in addition to that, selecting and implementing appropriate accounting policies, as well as fairly presenting the financial statements in accordance with U.S. GAAP, establishing and maintaining effective internal controls over financial reporting, compliance with laws and regulations, providing all the information to the auditors that we request, and of course, setting the proper tone at the top. With that said, I just want to start diving right into the numbers to show you some of the financial highlights for the year. This is the general fund budget and actual summary, a 4-column presentation. Original budget in the first column, followed by the final budget. The actual results in the third column, and the variance column is the difference between final and actual. Just focusing on the actual column and, for this slide, $1,634,820 was the actual revenues for the year. Actual expenditures, $1,578,856. A net change in fund balance for the general fund, $55,964. Because there was a surplus, no contributions would be required for the general fund for the fiscal year 2022 from the sponsors. So certainly positive results. That's what I mean by that, yes.
I have a question, if I may. Can you hear me? I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can, it's not very clear.
Oh. Does anyone have any idea why we fell short on sale of permits? And what is in the $84,000 other shortfall?
Slide.
I believe he might be asking about why we fell short on sale of permits, which would be the top line. Oh, I'm sorry, if I could just, this is a little more detail on just the revenue part of the budget. And the sale of permits came under the budget by $78,000. I think it was an unanticipated, and maybe Debbie could explain better possibly, but there was a shift in revenues between sale of permits and beach admissions. So the beach admissions kind of ended up being over budget, and the sales of permits ended up being under budget, and it was a shift in the actual revenues year over year as well. That's really, my understanding of why that happened.
And what?
He was asking about why the shortfall in the sales of permits on this slide. Debbie, you can see a shortfall budget. The budget was $552,000. The actual revenues were $473,000. A shortfall of about $78,000. And I was commenting that the beach admissions had a corresponding surplus for $531,000 versus a $325,000 budget. Both were unanticipated, and there was a shift in the revenue streams. If you look, it's not on the slide, but if you look from 2021 to 2022, you saw the revenues kind of shift where the sale of permits went down a little bit, but beach admissions went up a little bit. So I think that was really the reason why the shortfall on the top line of the permits and the surplus, if you will, on the beach admissions. But I'll just point out, the thing I wanted to mention on this slide did better than your budget by a total of $127,000. Is really, in the aggregate, revenues were greater than anticipated.
So my
What
recollection,
is
Mayor.
Wait, Josh is speaking. Josh?
What is other, the bottom line?
Other? Oh. I don't want to misspeak. I don't have that off the top of my head. We might have to get back to him on that.
So in terms of other revenue, that will include things, special items, for example, grants. It will include special events like film permit fees, walkathons, triathlon, if we had been lucky enough to have one in 2022. Those are items that would end up in other income.
Thank you.
All right. I just want you to know, Debbie, on our
I see it, it looks
Is-
blank.
Yeah, our,
Yeah.
I was gonna say loose leafs
Actually,
and
I
iPads.
don't see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that, we don't have that, so we're straining to look up there. Josh has it on his computer, he could see it easily.
Well, it is in the binders.
No, it isn't.
It's not in the binders
No.
either?
No.
Oh,
So but would you please, after the meeting, tomorrow when you get a chance, get those sheets so that the official record of the meeting contains those 2 pages, which are the budget and actual, the general fund revenues and the general fund expenditures. We have them, they're up on the screen, the world could see them, but we don't have them in our binders or iPads.
will do.
This slide is a snapshot of the general fund expenditures. The budget anticipated spending of $1,473,000, while the actual expenditures, $1,578,000. So there was overspending on the budget of about $106,000. Just keep in mind, the revenues were stronger than that. So while you did spend more than the budget, the revenues were more than enough to cover all the expenditures. I'm sorry if this one is small. This is a summary of the general fund balance sheet and the capital projects fund balance sheet with a total column. This you have, okay, excellent. And just moving on to the capital projects fund, pointing you to the bottom of the page where you see a fund balance deficit of $182,000. I believe we've spoken about this in previous years. The $182,000 represents grants anticipated to be received, or the funds have already been expended, but you don't have the dollars in hand yet, so the revenue doesn't get recognized until you have those dollars in hand.
On a cash basis, not an accrual.
It's modified accrual, so, with revenues being the most sensitive part of modified accrual, and you kind of have to have that cash in the near term to be able to do that.
But we would trace that, this is the 22 report, so we should have received that money in 23.
I will say, and the grants sometimes take years. We saw a payment come in this year, 300 and some thousand, which was a significant payment, from, I believe it was the seawall project, several years back. So depending on the grant, you'd like to have it quick, but sometimes it takes over a year to get the cash in, so.
And it also depends on the agency we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
FEMA was the federal government, and they move a lot more slowly than, for example, the state or the county.
Exactly. FEMA is, it's pretty typical that we see the actual cash coming in even years after storms that happened or whatever the disaster is that they're covering you for. But it tends to be a long and tedious process with FEMA. So I guess I'm happy to report that grant is finally closed out with that final payment. I believe it was $330,000 or somewhere around that was the final payment, which actually reduced the deficit that was reported. And you can see that on this slide here, the capital projects fund column. Last year, there was a reported deficit in the capital projects of $565,000. A good portion of that related to that FEMA project. And again, we saw the rest of those funds come in. There's still a deficit because you're starting on new grants now. So you may have received some of the old ones, but you're starting spending on new grants, and now you're anticipating getting those in the future. So until the grants totally wind down, you would find yourself in a deficit position.
Is there a way to note that on the financial statement? Because somebody reading this would not understand that without that explanation.
There is an explanation in the financial statements. You'd have to be rather astute to find it. It just says, the deficit will be eliminated upon the receipt of the state and federal funds. So we could look at that a little closer, that disclosure, and see if we need to, see if we can beef it up or if we want to beef it up. But there is a
Put it
note,
in bold.
put asterisks, there's different ways we could certainly, try to highlight that. But that's why I always like to mention it here for the board to make sure they know that, yes, there's an accounting deficit, but it's really not a true deficit. It's just the timing of the payments of the grants.
It's really kind of a receivable.
It is a receivable that has not yet been collected. And, as I mentioned before, the position in the capital projects fund did improve because, some significant grants were collected. And you had some capital projects fund expenditures that were non-grant related. So there is a required contribution from the town and the city for capital related items in 2022. And the total dollar amount of that is $224,581, with $136,000 being the town's portion and the city's portion being $88,211. So that's really the highlights I had from the financial statements. If there's any additional questions on the PowerPoint or anything in the financial statements, I'd be happy to try and answer them for you.
Well, first of all, those of you sitting here, do you have any questions? No? Josh, any more questions?
Not now, thank you.
We can review these, and if anybody has any questions on the audit report financial statement, please send an email directly to Debbie, copying the rest of us, and we'll get it over to Jeff and also our accounting people for any, possible explanation. Okay? Jeff, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
As always.
See you next year. Unless we need to drag you back here.
Once a year is good.
Thank you again. And now, we will have a brief report from Brian Sullivan. Debbie, you'll modify the agenda afterwards to note that Brian is making this presentation?
Certainly. There you are.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak before the Parks Commission today. I'm here to remind everybody about our upcoming Community Cleanup Day this Saturday, October 21st, which is running from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. We're running it at 4 sites across the town of Rye. So, in Port Chester, we're going to be running it at the Waterfront Promenade, and people will be meeting near the Colony Grill. In Rybrook, there will be a cleanup along Bowman Avenue, and people will meet at the Port Chester Middle School's parking lot. For Ryeneck, Columbus Park will be the site of the cleanup, which is next to the Mamaroneck train station. And then there will also be some pruning of invasive vines down by the Korean War Memorial here in Crawford Park. So if anybody is interested in signing up, they can visit townofryeny.com, and that's townofryeny.com. We're able to offer community service hours, so any high schoolers in need of hours are welcome to sign up. So thank you very much for your time, and that's townofryeny.com.
Brian, tell us what time again?
Yes, it's running from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Okay,
And that's
thank-
this Saturday, October 21st.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could you send that to us by email, a PDF of that flyer?
Sure.
So I'll post it to, I know by high school kids are always looking for community service hours.
That would be great.
We should send it directly to the schools, yeah, once we get it. That should be sent to the,
I was gonna say, Ryan took care of that. That was part of our mailing.
excellent, thank you.
But I don't know if the Rye City Schools were included, Emily, so
Yeah,
that would be great.
Okay, next item, we have the management report. I assume everybody has read it. Well done, Russ. Number one, do we have any questions about the management report? If not, Russ, would you like to expound and expand on any of your report? That requires a yes or a no answer.
No.
Thank you.
The bathhouse does look beautiful. I've been watching that on almost a daily basis. They're doing a really nice job.
Yeah, and I,
Very much. Boy, I feel as if that project is riding along on all of our shoulders.
Yeah.
yeah, and I spoke to Lula Reza, the contractor, and he expects to be finished in approximately 2 weeks, which is basically the end of the month.
That's what we thought this morning. That's not accurate. It's gonna be about 4 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
New
I spoke
information.
No, I spoke to Frank today after our meeting, and I meant to text you to tell you. Yeah, because.
You meant to text me so I would avoid that mistake?
I tried to stop you, but you just wouldn't let me. Yeah, so, the last pieces of stucco that have yet to, we're just starting the removal on the north side above the, just below the soldier course. We found some gaping holes again. Therefore, you know, the process is not to expose too much before you fix what's exposed, because there's the risk of a complete collapse if you do that. So they're doing it very, with great care, okay, to avoid any additional damage in the process. So about 4 weeks.
I like the word great care, 2 words. I think they're, you know, they're doing a superb job, considering what they had to work with.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
I just have one other comment. I was walking home from the Rye-Town Park this morning with my dog, and I bumped into just a Rye resident who was commenting on how, you know, I'm hearing it consistently this year, how happy people are with the park and how, you know, beautiful it is and how they are really noticing and spending time there. And today it was somebody walking along the wall, and it was lined with pumpkins, and, you know, obviously we had the fall festival, or Barley hosted that, I think. Is that right? Sorry.
Yeah, that's correct. And yes, some of the pumpkins initially were part of the pumpkin painting
Yeah.
activity and stuff, and they were painted, but then they were never brought
Picked
home,
up.
which happens. So they just put them up on the wall. But then later that I guess on Monday, the Friends of Rye-Town Park did what they did last year,
Yeah.
and they put pumpkins literally, evenly spaced from Dearborn Avenue to Rye Beach
Yeah.
Avenue.
Looks awesome.
It's got to be. It was probably a pretty decent expense,
Yeah.
and I know last year I said, you know, they're just going to be gone in a day, but they weren't.
I
Nobody took them.
I think about that all the
And
time.
So I'm hoping for the same results. As it really adds something
Yeah.
to the visual as you go by.
Yep. And the leaves are starting to change too, which is beautiful.
Okay,
Stop talking now.
speaking of dogs, Emily,
Yes.
we have a resolution
Yes.
that extends the off-leash hours for dogs to be in the park. Contrary to some people's thinking, it is not a dog park. It is our park where we allow dogs to be at certain times off-leash. They're allowed on-leash at all times, at off-leash at certain times, and we are proposing, at request from certain dog lovers, one of whom is seated to my far right, that we extend the hours from 6 a.m., which is when it normally starts, to 10 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. from October 1st through April 30th. April 30th is the last day where people can park for free, so May 1st is the day that parking rates start and dogs off-leash extended hours end. So, have I said it correctly?
Did you,
I
the only
kn-
thing you
Go
said,
ahead.
the when does, when it stops September 30th or October?
No, it starts October 1st.
No,
as
no,
it
you had
always
said
does.
about the parking.
Ends, and ends April 30th. Okay. And unlike prior resolutions, this is a permanent resolution. I don't know if anybody has objection to that until amended by subsequent resolution of the commission. Okay.
I don't think Josh is able to be heard right now if he was trying to say something before.
Josh?
No, I wasn't. I'm just anticipating.
I wasn't sure. Just want to make sure.
Speak again? Is there any speaking?
Nothing right now.
Okay, thank you. If there's nothing further, may I have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
I,
None opposed. Thank you. And the last item on our agenda is a discussion regarding the 2024 budget. This is I guess, a preliminary discussion in order for the staff to prepare the budget. And normally we pass the budget in the first quarter. And we are attempting to get our Rye Town Park budget in line with the budgets of the city of Rye and the town of Rye. No mean feat. So, Debbie, you sent the memo. Would you like to discuss what you would like a sense of the commission on different areas?
Yes, commissioners, as we are pulling together the numbers and giving our best guess, as Gary was saying, that we have been accustomed to beginning the budgeting process for Rye Town Park at the conclusion of the town budget season. In other words, we begin work in January and pass the budget hopefully in March, but sometimes in April. This year, we are pulling everything forward. We've gotten department heads starting to think about what they need in the summer, and Russ and Jose Oliveros, the assistant park director, and I are working feverishly to try to get you a responsible budget in time for us to pass it in sync with the town and the city.
Before you go on, Debbie, let me just say something. Just for the information of the public and the commissioners, the town of Rye is working on its own budget at the same time, which does put a lot of burden on Debbie, who's in the middle of both budgets. I just wanted to say that. She does a terrific job on both. So if she gets a little crazy, please pardon her. And I just
Thank you.
also want to say that unlike the town budget and the city budget, the commission budget doesn't result in the end in a tax rate. Every municipality does its projected expenses and projected revenues, comes up with a number that where the revenues are non-tax revenues, and then the balance is filled in by real estate taxes. The commission does not do that. We try to achieve a balanced budget without tax revenues. If there is a deficit, the city and the town make up that deficit the following year. We have to make that up. And that's not the responsibility of Rybrook or Portchester, it is the responsibility of the city of Rye and the town of Rye by state statute. Okay, I've said that. Continue.
Thank you. All right, so the first item on my memo has to do with the practice that we began last year to maintain a part-time maintenance worker, one, through the off-season. And I would like the sense of the commission, if that is something that you wish to continue. That would mean in fiscal year 2023, that approximate cost would be about $1,400.
That's
And-
because it goes from now till the end of the year.
That's correct. So from, I think the day after Thanksgiving through December 31st of 2023. Then starting in 2024, January 1st or January 2nd, 3rd, whatever the Monday is, that maintenance worker would return to work and work on a part-time basis until the beginning of the beach season, which is generally, the maintenance workers return early March, generally, or mid-March, depending upon the season and the weather, early March. And so that cost would probably be around $2,700, which of course we would build into the 2024 budget. But I'd like a sense, I would want to add that if we have heard one comment consistently through this season, it is how great the park looks, how happy the park visitors are to be there, to see such a well-maintained and well-loved park. And that, there's a connection there, there's a correlation. So I would encourage you to consider this expense, but I would like that sense. There's also one additional factor. This maintenance worker, one of the things that we've discovered with the storm water that's running through the park from the pond, which as we know is not adequate to handle the water that's coming into it thanks to climate change, that water is coming down the culvert onto the beach, causing erosion, which you're all well aware of, and causing considerable flooding for the restaurant, which we are attempting to address. And one of the methods that we have used is to maintain a trench to guide the water from where it lands on the sand out to the sound. That has to be maintained. If it's not maintained, the water goes wherever it wants, and that trench will do what sand does and fill in. So there's some real benefits to having that off-season maintenance person.
What else does the maintenance worker do? Do they take care
There's
of
a
the
list of,
bathrooms?
yes, the maintenance worker will open the bathrooms, clean the bathrooms. There is usually one stall for each sex in the main bathroom building, which is the only heated building in the park, to my knowledge. And that's the job of the maintenance worker. And then the staff will, the maintenance worker will leave usually around 2 in the afternoon. And we, between the park director and our director of grounds and facilities and our handyman and our caretaker, they all have a rotation where they take care of locking up at the end of the day.
I'm so sorry, I have to run, but I just wanted to say thank you so much, Debbie, for all your work aligning the budget process. This is so helpful, I think, for everybody, particularly the city of Rye. So I know it is a huge lift, so just thank you for that effort. The other thing I just want to say about the worker, I think, let's keep a good thing going is my sense. I assume, Russ supports it as well. So that's my vote before I leave.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Emily.
thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you for the dog park. No. I should've
If you
just
say
left.
dog park again,
I should have just left.
thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody else have any feelings on that issue?
I feel the same way. I think
Okay.
it's a good amenity to have the, at a minimum, to have the bathrooms open for people.
Okay.
But then it sounds like all the other work they do is beneficial as well.
The other items on your list? I think there are two more.
The other items on my list, the next was the free to, when trying to project revenue for fiscal year 2024, it would be really helpful to know if the Park Commission intends to continue the policy of free Tuesdays for residents. And I just want to remind you, actually I have a graphic on that.
I have one question. I mean, when I first saw the email, my first thought was, do we know if the county intends to continue the free buses? And I think, I mean, honestly, my personal opinion is I don't think it really matters. We saw the overall revenue for 23. We just saw 2022 as well. I don't think this makes a huge dent in it.
I don't think so either, if we do free Tuesdays. We have, Debbie has the figures, and they vary widely because, once again, everything in the park has to do with the weather.
Right.
So, I can read this. On 7/11, we had 197 people, and on the 25th, 122, and on the 8/1, we had 202, and then there are days on 8/15, we had 3 people. 7/18, we had 57 people. So, basically, the revenue was 3,815, and we have no idea, of course, how many of those people would have come if it was, if they didn't have to pay.
Well, I think the more people become accustomed to that, perhaps those numbers will rise, right? When more people are aware of it.
Yeah, more people will come, but that doesn't mean we're losing revenue.
Right.
That
I'm
only
just-
means that more people will come.
Yeah, the only way would be to look back on the same day as the same, those Tuesdays the previous year.
Yeah,
To
except we don't
compare.
know if those Tuesdays rain
We
or
have
not.
you have no idea to know, but you can look at the high and the low of what numbers and what the total numbers were on each day. Either way, to me, it doesn't this isn't a huge difference. And like you said, and there's nothing to say that someone who came because it's free for the first time didn't come back again another time on a paying day.
Right,
I would also add that we're not offering free parking, so this actually could end up being a lost leader.
yeah, people who may come and pay for parking in order to get the free beach. I'm not sure about that, but, what is your feelings about it? Josh, you have a feeling on it?
Let's keep it for another year.
All right, thank you. Joan?
Okay. Unless we see it making a big difference, I don't,
Yeah.
negatively, then I don't see
Okay.
any issue with it.
Okay, we're doing it basically for the, July and August.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, finally, there's, a basic building block of our revenue projections are our permits, daily beach admission, parking rates, and facility rentals, our fees. If you take a look at this graphic, and I realize that you're a fair distance away from it, hopefully you have it in your, actually you may not. Okay? What you'll see is that there's lots of yellow in the 2021 and the 2022 and 2023 years. Those yellow cells indicate prices that changed from the preceding year. There's a lot of yellow in 2023. There is no yellow in my proposed 2024, but I'd like to inquire what the commission feels about that. Is holding fees and rates steady for a year a concept that you support?
Agreed.
I would, I would stay with inflation. Cost of living, I would ask for.
Did you hear Josh says cost of living?
Cost of living increase? Across the board?
Yes,
I didn't hear the last part.
All right, the thing is, we're a little bit disadvantaged because we've always had a loan to figure out the elasticity. We don't have a loan anymore. Aside from, where is he the assistant manager now?
The Village of Larchmont.
He's the assistant manager in Larchmont, and he has a new baby, and that keeps him up, and we can't really, we'll try to use him when he's available, but we don't have that resource at the present time, although we'll try to find a replacement. To judge, what happens when you raise the rates? Does that bring in more or less revenue?
Right. The other part of that challenge is that when you start with a cost of living increase, you end up with parts of a dollar, and that could be a challenge for our pay stations. If people are not paying electronically, if they're paying with cash, they're not getting change. So that's something that we've, certainly with the permits, that's no issue because we don't take cash for permits, to my knowledge, and that's largely an electronic process. The daily fees, that may be more of a challenge.
My suggestion is,
round down. We can just round down.
round down?
Yep.
My personal feeling is especially with the daily fees and the parking, you're doing $5 increments. So you're not talking about raising it $1 or $2, you're talking about raising it $5 typically, because everything's like 10, 15, 20. So, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I think that we need to do some kind of an analysis because I agree with Jason. I mean, I don't want to raise a rate from $5 to $6, for example. I mean, the rate of inflation went down a little bit. What are we at now, 4%? What's 4% of $5?
1% of
$5,
is,
yeah.
is
20 cents.
No, sorry. That's, all right, so $10, 4% of, yeah. It's $2. No, that's 40%. Yeah, 20 cents.
20 cents. I don't know that it makes sense to raise it 20 cents. We could look at various models. And then again, we can raise the non-resident rate a little bit and leave the resident rate alone and see what that does.
Are you talking permits or are you talking?
We're talking parking, I think.
Right.
Parking, we don't distinguish between residents and non-residents.
So we're talking permits?
Permits and daily beach fees. Also rentals.
What kind of elasticity do we have with rentals, do you know?
We've never done a study on that. I would tell you that our rates doubled between 2022 and 2023. I like, Russ, do you have a sense? Yeah. Well, okay, so the North Barbecue raised it, after many, many, many years of never changing. The rate went up from $100 for 4 hours to $200 for 4 hours.
How did that affect our participation?
All I could say is that
Can you come to the mic, please?
overall rentals were down. Pavilions and the beach barbecue. I think we've reached reached the breaking point. We're not really offering them anything. You're offering a space, which now is not completely dry because the pavilion roofs both leak. And all you're getting is tables and chairs. I think there's not enough value in it now, and I think that's started to affect the number of rentals.
What was the revenue at the higher rate with lower anticipation?
I don't know. I don't know the number.
Yeah, I think
All I know is that the number of just the raw number of rentals, just like the raw number of permits, was down from last year. Of course, the revenue on permits was up, but because we raised the rates, but the units purchased was down.
And that's kind of what I was saying. I think it may make sense to wait a little bit until we start to see the final projections on the year and see where we stand, you know, with
Well, I think for the initial budget that you're working on, I think we should leave the rates the same, and then make an adjustment when the more final figures come in. Is that okay with you, Josh?
Yeah, so long as we remember that we want to look at it when we've got the final numbers. I agree with that.
One thing I want to point out that Diana Page would like to be heard. She's got something to say. And I'm also looking up the 2019 December financial statement to see what the rental income was that year. Right, December 2019 would be, yeah, that was before COVID hit, right? Okay, so that 2074. Wait, concession, wait. Rental income, recreation. Why am I not seeing it? Beach commission. Yeah, I don't see our rental in here at all.
Debbie, we can look that up and make a more complete examination for next meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. Just a moment, let me see if I can get Diana
While you're
on.
looking, can you also look, do we have any other comments on any other subject?
Diana, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We see you.
Okay, terrific.
Hi, Diana.
Great. I just very quickly, hi there. Sorry I can't be there in person tonight. I just very quickly wanted to add my own thanks, first of all, to Debbie. It's, I think, hugely important and a great step forward that you guys are, and it sounds like it's all falling on Debbie's shoulders, but I appreciate that you are aligning your budgetary process with that of the city of Rye. I'm hopeful that that will help just with planning and with understanding grants that are out there and possible matches and all the different many aspects that go into the parks budget. But I realize that adds to your workload, and so I thank you very, very much for that. With respect to the budget, you mentioned having the maintenance worker, and this is just a question that sort of occurred to me as I listened to that conversation. Does the park have security staff over the entirety of the winter? And I was thinking about that in relation to the park security guard who was luckily able to thwart the assault that was in progress maybe a few months ago. I was just curious what the security, status is of the park over the off season.
Do you want to answer that, or shall I?
I think that you could or Russ could.
There's no, basically from December 1st to March 1st, there's no security presence at all.
Okay. And for the rest of the year, is the person goes off duty at midnight? Is that correct?
We have no.
The one who stopped the assault, he comes by every night. He makes rounds of all town of Rye properties every single night and gives us a report.
He just does
Okay.
a.
But he's not a security
walkthrough.
guard.
He's like a
He's-
night watchman.
He's
but he
not a night watchman or anything.
No, but he shows up at the various at different times. So he might show up at 10 o'clock, he might show up at 11 o'clock, he might show up at 11:30, at night, all at night. And just, checks the doors and windows, so to speak, and does a quick survey of the park, and heads out. He's probably not there for 10 minutes.
Wow. Okay,
I
so we
mean,
got really lucky. in that
Diana,
instance.
I mean, security is always on our mind. I've mentioned this before, that one of the things that we should look at in our next budget are security measures, not necessarily personnel, but certain things like cameras and lights and things like that, that we need to review to make sure that we have them located in in the best spots. Obviously, we can't put
Okay.
them in all spots, and we're certainly not going to light up the park at night with the neighbors around. But it's something that I think is worthy of a discussion, and you and the Friends are certainly welcome to participate in such a discussion.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that. And just to give a quick shout out, the pumpkins, the bigger pumpkins, yes, they are the Friends, and Lucy Burkhoff and actually Jane Anderson of the Rye City School Board went off to Acme and purchased all of those and placed them with Jane's son Evans, and I think some Lucy's children and their friends as well. So we're happy to do that to usher in fall. The Friends can take credit for the funding, but we can't take credit for the hard labor. That was Lucy and Jane. So just wanted to say that.
All right. Diana, thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Anything else? Is Josh on? No, hi, Josh. Yeah, I just wanted to say, because we spoke about the budget, Mayor Cohen has graciously invited me to attend a City of Rye budget workshop session on November the 13th. Josh, what time would that be?
I don't have the time yet, Gary.
Anyway, I will be happy to attend and to discuss the budgeting process, especially the capital budget, with the Council of the City of Rye, so that they can all be familiarize themselves with it and be a participant in the process, because it's their budget too. So, thank you, Josh.
Thank you for coming.
And with that, does anybody else have anything? If not, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
We are adjourned to November 21. We don't have a problem with Thanksgiving with that meeting, do we?
It's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
It's a Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Is that okay for people? Okay.
Question for me.
Well, you could